Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. Today we are going to do what month is this? September garden tour, and we are just going to tour the back area, not the front, because you know I don't like to tour my front garden because it's too loud, too noisy, too many cars, all that stuff. It's noisy back here, but it's more noisy out there. So let's get this tour started. I can't wait to show you guys what's going on around here. So right now we are up the hill. My house is downhill, you can see it there, but up here is where I have my cut flower garden. You can see my chicken coop there, and then over here we have our garage bed. The cut flower garden is starting to wind down. I can definitely see that. My zinnias are looking bad. Everything is kind of going to seed or just kind of dying back. So I do need to do a lot of work in here, pulling stuff out. Over here, I'm starting to make a path to go this way where we can walk around the garden, you know, walk around this space full circle. So that's what I want. The tree trimmers came the other day and dropped some branches, and they forgot to grab those, so I'll have to take care of those. But back here, you guys, here is an offset from my banana tree, one of my bananas, and I planted it, and it's doing so good. It's gorgeous. Cleome. This garden tour will be very random, just because that's kind of how I am, very random. We've got some oak leaf hydrangeas. There is I think that's Bobo hydrangea down there. It's a small one, or at least it's still small this year. My giant hosta down there. Really loving this garden this year, you guys. This is my best year yet. This is year 4, and things are really starting to take off. At least the stuff that I planted originally, like last year and the year before and the year before that, those things are starting to really come into themselves. They're flowering really good. The plants are really healthy. Last year I set up drip, and I really had a good schedule for drip, and I think that really helped the plants this year come to life and really be able to hold their own. So here's that garage bed. Oh, about to fall down. So here's that garage bed. Got an oak leaf here, this big beautiful hosta. For some reason I thought this hosta had already bloomed this year, but maybe not, or maybe it's I don't think they do a second round of blooms. Someone correct me. My heuchera, brunnera. There is a panicle hydrangea here. I'm not exactly sure which one this is. I think it is, it looks like firelight. Just by that color, it looks like firelight. Okay, so let's keep on going. Begonias. There's a lot of weeds out here, you guys. This year I've been very lax on tending to my weed issue. It's all here between the paths, but I do plan to clean it up this fall, just as part of the fall cleanup. We've got a lot of weeds, but a lot of beautiful things growing in this garden. So gorgeous. This is my hardy elephant ear, doing so well. It's put on a lot of growth since planting, and I'm definitely gonna mulch it heavily this winter, make sure it survives. My banana tree planted here. This is, I don't know the exact variety of my banana trees. I'm hoping they're Musa Baju. I'll put it on the screen, but I hope they are that variety, because those are hardy to my zone. I got my banana trees from someone locally, but they didn't, it was kind of like a porch pickup. So they didn't really leave any like, this is the type of banana this is, you know, and this is how you grow it. So last year I just brought it indoors. And this year I planted both of them in ground, and I'm gonna leave them out and see what happens. If they don't survive, I'm okay with that. I do have a place locally that does sell hardy bananas. It was very difficult to buy, not to buy more bananas this year, but I want to see how these guys do, because they do produce offsets, and those you can replant anywhere. So they basically will make free plants for you. So I didn't want to spend if I didn't have to. So let's just take a second and admire this sweet potato vine. I plant these sweet potatoes here, well, for the last 2 years I've planted them. This is the second or third season that I've planted these sweet potato vines, and they seem to take off later in the season, but once they do, they just are so productive. They cover up everything. They're gorgeous. I love how it just mounds over. It's beautiful. Like, it's my favorite, one of my favorite spots in the garden once it gets started. I planted probably 6 in this bed, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's doing wonderfully. I've got this concolus that I grew from seed. It's stunning, so beautiful. I've got other coluses that I grew from seed that are coming up, making an appearance. There's a colus here, and everything is just looking so gorgeous. See how the sweet potato trails over the side here? Just stunning, stunning, stunning. Don't mind my hose. It's there for quick watering, so I don't put it away because I always need to water something. So before we walk away from this area, I want you guys to behold the climbing hydrangea. So gorgeous. Now, I planted this plant probably, this is season 2 in my garden. Last year I transferred it, I believe, early in the season to this spot, and then it did pretty well. It did give me 1 bloom last year, and then now it's just given me so much growth this year. I know there's a saying, first year they sleep, second year they creep, third year they leap. So next year I am hoping for just blooms all over the place. If I don't get blooms next year or the year after, then I know that it might be in the wrong spot. This area here does get sunlight. It gets west facing light, very strong west facing light, and then it gets east facing light in the morning. But there are periods of the day where it is in shade. Like right now it's shady and the sky is clear, but you see that it's not super bright sun, but it got sun in the morning already, and in the evening it'll get blasted by that west facing sun. So right now we are standing in my raised bed garden. So my raised bed area is only 3 years old. The second year we lived here, we built these 3 front beds here, and they were like the only thing that were here. Actually, these raised beds might be 2 years old. They're between 2 or 3 years old. I know like the first beds we built were these 3 squares up here, and then these beds came afterwards. But I think, well, because these guys are made of different wood, I think the first beds we built were the 2 big beds in the back, and then the scrap wood from that we built these 3, and then I wanted more raised beds, so then we built these guys after. So this garden bed is, I mean, this raised bed area is between 2 and 3 years old, and these wood beds do really well. Right now they're set up on drip irrigation, and they keep everything watered pretty well. As long as my drip is working, the beds are watered well. If the drip is not working, you know, because of user error, then I come and water by hand, and that's rare right now, because the drip has been doing really well lately. Everything in my raised beds right now is full, lush, overgrown. I've got some cucamelon that's kind of just taking over everything everywhere, and I do need to come in and do some pruning. But one thing that I love to make sure to do in my garden is plant some things that will overwinter in the bed. So I've got oregano here that's been in here for 2 years, and then I've got strawberries in this bed with the oregano and in that bed, and my strawberries overwinter and stay in these beds with the oregano. And I love having things that I don't have to replant each year. I also have lemon balm in this bed here, and that overwintered from last year as well. If you guys are thinking about taking cuttings from any of your herbs to grow indoors over winter, now's the time to do it. It is like the prime optimal time. I'm in garden zone 5B, so this is perfect time for me to take those cuttings and root them up. I always root my cuttings in water. I find that to be the best way for me. Plus I get to see once they start putting out roots, and I'm nosy, so I like to see that kind of stuff. When gardening in raised beds, what is just as important as planting the vegetables that you love to grow is also planting flowers with them. Adding flowers to your raised bed garden brings those pollinators even closer in. Now you may have, you know, plants flowering all around, but make sure that you plant some flowers in your raised beds. Not only is it beautiful, but it brings in the pollinators, and that's what we want. I planted these containers here early in the season down here, and I planted them, one, because I wanted to have a quick snack right by my chicken coop for the chickens. So I planted chard for them. I planted amaranth that is good for us and them, along with chard too, of course. But I added amaranth. There is coleus, which is not okay for chickens that I know of. I haven't fed it to them, but the coleus for color, the chard for color, amaranth blooms have beautiful color. It's supposed to be kind of like a edible ornamental space here. And I love how it turned out this year. I originally planted something else. In early spring, I planted sweet peas, the edible sweet peas, and they did awful. They were supposed to, in my mind, they were supposed to trail up the chicken run and bloom and, you know, produce fruit and just be so gorgeous, but they looked terrible. They did awful. So I ended up coming back through with the chard, the amaranth, the coluses, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. This arrangement will last probably through November for me. The chard is kind of cold tolerant, so I'm really happy with this planting. And then anybody walking by can just grab chard for the chickens and then feed it to them. They love it. So my next experiment were the Dollar Tree hanging planters. Now these did so well for me most of the summer, until it got to the point where we were having weeks without rain and having extreme heat, and so I was coming by daily to water them, but it just wasn't enough. As far as managing their size, we cut from them often. I would cut and give some to the chickens, cut and dry, cut and use in, you know, dinner recipes and things like that. So the herbs got used very regularly, but it was difficult to keep them happy for the entire summer. Right here is my boxwood hedge, and these guys were planted probably year 2, and I got them all on clearance from Walmart. You gotta love that Walmart clearance, or the clearance plant racks in general. But got all of these, planted them. They are due for a trim. I'm not sure if I'm going to trim them this year. I kind of wanted them to grow a little more because I pruned them really hard last spring because of the is it psyllid, some kind of pest that was making the leaves curl. I'll put the name on the screen, but I pruned them really hard for that pest, and then I was kind of just giving them a season to just relax and put on some growth, and then maybe next spring I'll go ahead and come through with a nice shear. So I'm proud of every space in my garden, whether it's doing great or not, but this space I am so proud of. It is so big, so bountiful, and just gorgeous. Like, I couldn't have imagined it looking better this year. I have nasturtium mountain here that has literally taken over. Nasturtium is a great trap crop, not perfect. You know what, I've found that the trap plants don't often, I mean, like, they trap some bugs, they do some deterrence, but it's not a perfect system. But nasturtium is doing really good at, one, it gets some cabbage moths, caterpillars, and then it's also doing really good with aphids. We've got these black aphids that seem to just love this plant. It doesn't, from my experience and from looking at it, the aphids don't do a whole lot of damage. At least the mountain is still intact. I don't see a lot of damaged leaves. The only thing that is damaging the foliage is us tracking back through here. So I am going to have to come through, clip some of this back so we at least have a space to walk. But overall, I just love this huge mountainous beast right here. It is so gorgeous. So I planted probably, I would say, less than 10 seeds over here, and it is just boomed into this big giant beast of a plant. Now over here I have a hydrangea. It is potted. It's doing so well. I'm not 100% sure on the variety. I got this on clearance the year before last and it was unmarked. The only thing I know is that it is a proven winner's hydrangea, so I'll need to pour through their website to see if I can make an exact match to whatever this might be. Over here, I have the Supertunia Vistas that I planted in self-watering hanging containers, and they did really great at first, and then they have slowly just declined. Now, I'm sure there's a lot that I could have done to rectify the situation, but I forgot about it, and then I was just so busy with other stuff around the garden that it just did not happen for me. So over here we've got my canna lilies in containers. They are huge, stunning. They are at least 10 feet tall. They're so big and huge, and I have them planted with some other plants, some elephant ears and some caladiums, and I think some petunias. I would highly suggest, if you're going to grow canna lilies in containers, that you let them be the only plant, because they suck up a lot of nutrients and they drain. Like, if you water it, you're going to have to water them all the time because they love moisture. So definitely plant them alone in a container. One of the questions that I get a lot about these canna lilies is, how do I get them so full and so like luscious? Well, I say there are 3 ways. there might be a fourth. 3 ways. One, I plant a lot of tubers in the pot because canna lilies can grow, you know, 1 to 2 to 3 shoots, depending on how big the tuber is. They'll grow shoots, but I plant a lot in the pot. So like my tubers were probably about this long, planting them in there. So I just plant multiples to fill up the top surface of the pot. That's how they look so full. There's a lot of tubers in there. And then the second thing that I do, second and third, is I keep them watered and fertilized properly. That's pretty much it. That's why they look the way they look. That's why the pots are so full. Now they'll make new tubers. They make new tubers every single year. So what I put in, I'll probably pull out double. Right here is another space in the garden that I absolutely love. This corner has come together so well. This area, when we first moved in, was just covered in like weird bushes, overgrown. There was like a fence here that was falling down that we ended up taking out, and it has filled in nicely with the plants that I've planted here. A lot of them are hydrangeas. We've got hibiscus, we've got baptisia here. I've got a potted hydrangea here that is Firelight Tidbit. And then we've got Incredible. And I like to do a lot of potted things around the garden as well. And I just love having beautiful containers, beautiful plants. Things bloom all different times, and it's just so wonderful to see and anticipate, you know, certain plants and their blooms. This bed right here holds a lot of my hydrangeas, a lot of my big hydrangeas, and I absolutely love this space. It's looking amazing this year. I've got some vines planted in here that I'm really excited about. Cardinal Climber. The contrast of the foliage with the hydrangeas is just beautiful to me. I've got begonias planted on the edge, and they're stunning. I've got colas in here. We've got some peonies that are long since done blooming, but the foliage is so pretty and it contrasts with the other foliage in this bed. I've got to show you this obelisk. Well, you can't see it, but it is a mountain of vines right here, and I had no idea that this was going to get this crazy, but I absolutely love it. It provides a block this way for the neighbor's house, and then this way it provides a block for the telephone pole in a way. It's just so beautiful. It has these crazy cool blooms on it, and it's absolutely stunning. I'll put the name of the vine on the screen. Right here is my side garden. Do not mind the hose. I leave it out because it's really long and I have to water a lot of containers by hand, like every other day or every 2 days, just depending. So I leave it out. Don't judge me. This side garden is gorgeous. Look at my Incredible. Stunning. Hydrangeas on this side. Hydrangeas on this side. Looking so amazing. I am so proud of this space. Looking forward to this rose really climbing over this, and then my clematis to climb and meet the rose at the top. So many gorgeous things. And this bed right here, I have some really pretty shade tolerant plants. Back here does not get a ton of light, So it gets a decent amount of light, but I like to plant shadier stuff in this bed. I've got some different variety of hostas. We've got brunnera. We've got some Darmera peltata, which I absolutely love. I like this bed because it has a lot of big leafed plants, and I love big foliage. Like, give me a ginormous leaf any day. So it's so cool. These hostas back here have gotten just bigger than I could have ever imagined. They were here when we moved here. I believe I moved them from another area of the garden to here, but we've got this massive one here. This one's getting big. This is my Darmera. We've got brunnera here, which is so beautiful. There are a couple elephant ears in this bed as well, and everything, it's looking a little how do you say it? Things are looking a little crispy right now, and I think that is because of the weather we had with the extreme, I wouldn't say extreme drought, because other people in other places were experiencing much worse conditions than I was, but the weeks without rain, and then my drip system was off for a while, so I was hand watering, and that is not a good way to water my garden with the size that it is and how big these plants are. It was just really difficult to keep everything happy, but the drip is working, things are getting watered, new leaves are coming up, and everything's going pretty good for this garden bed right here. So these two are my newest raised beds. So excited for them. I love the spots that I picked from, because we've got these tall wood beds here. These beds are 3 feet tall. No, 3 feet wide. I don't know how tall they are, but they're taller than these beds, and I like the stagger of the beds. And then we've got this round bed here, and I'm just really happy with this space. I love this arbor, even though everything on it is kind of dying right now, but we're almost to October, so everything is going as expected. I am so happy with my garden this year. I definitely have plans to change some things, but overall, I had a really good season, and I'm grateful for everything right now. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions about this garden tour, any plants in here that you wanted to know more information on, let me know in the comment section. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.